It's undeniable that there's great beauty in the human experience. There's beauty in love, there's beauty in connection, and there's even beauty in pain. What I don't know is if those things are inexorably linked to biology. Are love and connection and pain more than just the sum of the neurotransmitters that are released in our brains? And I think the answer is yes. And really, the fundamental question I'm trying to ask here is, does love exist outside of flesh? And the thing is, we are quickly moving towards a world where we might actually get to answer that question, where we might actually get to exit or transcend biology completely and see what remains. The first part of this video is going to be addressing the positive or utopic aspects of what transcendence could look like. Part 2 is going to be addressing the negative or dystopic aspects. Part 3 will provide my personal view on the matter, what we should do as a species, and how you can help with that. These things, like love, that we hold on to so dearly as human qualities, are metaphysical forces that, as humans, we have evolved to tap into and harness, but aren't necessarily exclusive to us and things that we as individuals don't create. Our brains are essentially attempting to translate these cosmic archetypal forces into an experience that we, as three-dimensional beings locked into linear time, can actually understand. These forces exist in a pure form outside of our dimension, and the next stage in evolution might be moving into that realm entirely. Now, what I'm referring to here as transcendence is not cybernetic transhumanism. It's not uploading your brain into a machine. It's not replacing our bodies with a machine. It's something different. And in my mind, the cybernetic aspect is actually pretty dystopian and not something I think we should move towards at all. As Dreg, a YouTuber who I quite like, pointed out in his recent video, your IQ, your processing power, is not what makes you human. It is your love and your connection to others that actually makes you human. I am talking about moving into what we call, right now at least, the metaphysical, the mystical, the spiritual, the collective unconscious, the platonic realm, where the archetype of love actually exists. Now, the flip side is that biology might be the only way to experience these things and might be the only way to have an experience at all. And in fact, the point of biology might be to have experiences, which I'll get into in part 2 of this, but I digress. Sometimes I really see us resisting technology as hard as we do as a kind of infantile grasping, where the only thing we know is being human. We fear the unknown. The ultimate unknown, essentially, is not being human, is dying, is whatever that would be, and so we resist it. But the thing is, no one looks back romantically at the lives of chimpanzees, at least not seriously. No one reminisces about floating in a warm pond as an amoeba. I mean, I guess if you do, leave it in the comments. I'd love to hear that. But part of reaching the next stage in evolution is realizing how small and limiting your previous form was. Our brains and our glands in our bodies release things that put us into attack mode, put us into conquest mode, put us into abuse mode, and it causes us to hurt ourselves, hurt each other, and hurt the planet. Now, it's also entirely likely that these forces are also kind of more cosmic archetypal forces as well, like love. And if it exists, the platonic realm could be equally filled with ugliness and hate as it is with beauty and love. But my intuition says that love and connection occupy some sort of a higher slice of reality, a higher space, a higher, to use the cliche term, vibrational state. Whatever that means exactly. What's undeniable is that aspects of our biology are beginning to destroy us because we have created a world for ourselves that is so completely alien to the one that we evolved in. We're seeing now that our organism truly cannot handle what we have created for it. It cannot handle the processed diet we have created. We grow fatter and more chronically ill by the day, and we cannot stop ourselves from eating the garbage. We cannot handle the algorithmically served content. Our attention spans and our critical thinking are eroding. The vast majority of our opinions, our beliefs, our feelings are being pumped into us by the proboscis of the algorithm. I don't think this is something we can stop, though. Not really. The egregore of technology, what Dreg in his recent video simply calls it, has been pulling us through history since the dawn of time. It's what Terence McKenna calls the transcendental object at the end of time, or the eschaton, and it's a force much greater than our little species. Maybe it is simply a neutral animating force, but to our species, at the precipice we find ourselves at, it can seem pretty monstrous because of the changes it's about to bring in. We are careening towards disaster. Climatologically, toxicologically, reproductively, it's pretty clear that as a species we are not headed in a good direction, and we can all feel it. If we could leave our physical form, maybe we could, as a species, realize the, at this point, kind of cliche truism that we are all one. And maybe that's the path that we and any sufficiently advanced and conscious species is meant to take. We could leave behind the needless suffering of disease and maybe even of death itself. We could leave behind the anxiety, violence, and depravity of our apen bodies. We could leave behind the life-sapping addictions to technologies that we simply weren't meant to handle. We could exist entirely in the realm of creativity, of genius, of imagination, symbology, love, and connection, as it was always meant to be. The ultimate state that transcendental object at the end of time is pulling us towards. Or maybe this entire video, this entire idea, is wrong, is even heretical in some deep, deep way. Maybe there is a purpose to life, and maybe that purpose is to be human, to have experiences. And maybe it's arrogant or even heretical, like I said, to even entertain the idea of an alternative. We should just put our heads down and thank the universe or God or whatever it is for the chance to exist and not question it any further. We might wake up from the human dream only to realize that we were the ones who put ourselves here. We were the ones who wanted to escape the cosmic horror of eternity, even for a moment. And maybe that's the inevitable cycle. A species achieves this post-biological utopia only to realize the true horrifying emptiness of the universe, and they decide to devolve and manifest themselves back into either their original material reality or a simulated reality. The species that is our true origin, the energy that we call to through the void, was terrified of that cold infinity that they found on the other side of biology. And so they created a comforting universe. Simple physical laws, a single point of expansion, and emergent properties of those physical laws that would eventually lead to stars and galaxies and then life. And maybe you'd want to leave in some quirks and some randomness at the smallest of levels so that when a species gets advanced enough to start looking down at the quantum level, they see some mystery. They see some things that they don't understand because they can't, because it really is random. And maybe as you are creating this little reality to escape into, to forget your true nature in, you'd want to leave little breadcrumbs to kind of remind you of what you really are, little ways back. And I personally think these breadcrumbs would look like creativity, would look like genius, would look like inspiration, would look like art. These are the ways that we could leave ourselves those little hints of our true nature without revealing the game entirely. These fleeting connections would leave you with this vague notion that there is something else going on here. There is more than just this material reality, and that I am more than just this body. but you'd never quite get the full answer. You'd still stay fully engaged and engrossed in the simulation. And maybe this is the cosmic joke in its most cruel but most poetic form. Every species advanced enough to strive for enlightenment eventually will reach that enlightenment, but then realize that that's not what they wanted at all. So we've laid out both sides. We've looked at the utopia, we've looked at the horror, but we've missed something pretty fundamental. What would this transcendence even look like? The best things that we have so far are things that allow us to access altered states. Ritual, dance, prayer, ordeal, and then most importantly, in my opinion, psychoactive plants and fungi. These things have been used throughout our entire history to allow us to essentially exit the human experience, to temporarily transcend the experience of being an individual. And like I said, I think our best option for this are psychoactive plants and fungi. They need to have a place in our diet, in our culture, and in our traditions far more than we do now. Terence McKenna put it very poignantly when he said simply that we have a lack of hallucinogens in our diet. There's actually incredible work being done right now by a group called DMTX. DMTX provides its participants with a steady state, controlled DMT experience via a drip IV, essentially. It allows, at the press of a button, a patient's consciousness to be entirely removed from the human and placed into an entirely new and entirely alien reality. We have a reality switch now. Exiting the human experience or transcending isn't just spiritual mumbo-jumbo, nor is it science fiction. It's something we can do now, again, at the press of a button, and it's something that we have done throughout our entire history. It's temporary, it doesn't permanently evolve us out of our 3D reality, but I personally think that's the balance that we probably want to strike. Because I genuinely do think that if we were to permanently transcend, we would forever yearn for a physical form again. We would want to manifest ourselves back into a reality and have 3D experiences again. With plant medicines and the technological equivalents that we're quickly developing, we can venture out into these realms, come back with knowledge, communicate with the entities there, engage in some diplomacy even, and then utilize that knowledge that we get from those realms to better ourselves and better our species. And in my mind, this is genuinely the only option we have. Like, we are not going to pull ourselves out of the crises that we are currently careening towards if we don't have a major, major shift in consciousness at the level of a species. So what do? Well, what we need as a species is consciousness. We need intellect and we need compassion. How we get there is twofold. First is individually. We get there through meditation, through plant medicines, and through other methods of expanding consciousness. The second is collectively, through community and connection. We need to take action to rebuild the already crumbled, atomized social fabric of our society. It's in a bad spot, and it's only going to get worse if we don't actively start to push against the current. What we need is a method. And the method I'm proposing is an intentional, recursively propagating community. An individual collects a small group of friends and teaches them how to make more friends, how to build a small community of their own. They all help each other improve their lives, and then those sub-communities, because they are then taught how to build communities of their own, spawn, which then spawn more sub-communities, and so on. It's a recursively propagating community. Eventually, you end up with this distributed, almost mycelial network of these local hubs of intelligent, compassionate, and kind people that are united under the shared vision of the larger community. A member of this community would, wherever they go, have at least a scrap of social fabric that they can then start to weave into something of their own. Maybe you throw in some recognition, you throw in a leaderboard, you throw in some roles and awards to the highly motivated members of the community who actually go out and do the thing, who bring more people in, who help the members that are already there. You give them social recognition, essentially. And while the goal of this community would always be in-person connection, the easiest way, and really, unfortunately, the only way to effectively start this in the modern world is via an online community, which is why I have created a Discord server of my own. I am attempting to become the first node of this network. Selfishly, I really just want more friends. I want to meet more like-minded people. I want to build a community of my own. And non-selfishly, I genuinely do want to feel like I have created something that is contributing positively to people's lives and to our species as a whole. I will provide a link to this community in the description below, and if you're interested, I would genuinely love to meet you. Let's chat, let's discuss, and let's try to figure out how to make the world a better place.